So this is going to be a little weird. Maybe you've heard of a town called Lytton, British Columbia. And if you have, it's probably because the day after it set temperature records for its latitude in Canada, it burned to the ground in a wildfire. When I heard of Lytton burning, it sounded so familiar to me, but I couldn't figure out why. Also, for seemingly no reason at all, I couldn't help but think of a video I had made years ago about scientific studies and things that can go wrong with them, in particular sample sizes. Generally, sample sizes in scientific studies have a tendency to be too small to collect enough information. Let's say you wanted to test an experimental drug and you tried it on 10 people and one of them died. That doesn't mean that 10% of all people who take the experimental drug will die. You haven't tested on a large enough sample size to know that. Maybe that was the one person in a million. But without testing it on a larger group of people, you can't really know. What I didn't address in that video is the danger of too large of a sample size, which can also create its own problems. Not that you won't get results, but it becomes more and more difficult to collect thorough and accurate medical histories of each participant. And it gets more and more difficult to normalize for life choices, pre-existing conditions, and contraindications. The more and more people you have, it just becomes harder and harder to track all of the information, and it can get lost and masked. And then I remembered. Lytton is a town of about 250 people. The immediate surrounding area, reserves and farmland, has another 1,700 people that, visit Lytton and use it for their, medical treatment. And that's almost 2,000. That's the chef's kiss amount of people required for a good and accurate study. So before we get into this, I want to start by saying, yes, it's a little odd. Also, it's all I have. This is the only other time that I'd heard of Lytton, and I don't have much more information than what Wikipedia can offer me. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not claiming anything. I'm just pointing out the oddities and allowing questions to form here. So this is dated the 4th of May, 2021, and I've had it since early June. Keep in mind, Lytton burned down either 30th of June or July 1st. I'm not sure. Community notice to Lytton and surrounding area. Healthcare changes at St. Bartholomew's Health Centre, Lytton, British Columbia. The rollout of the Moderna vaccine in Lytton, which started in mid-January 2021, has unfortunately given rise to a very high rate of serious side effects. Of the initial 900 people vaccinated, 10 now have serious ongoing neurological side effects, 1 in 90. Of these, 5 now appear to have permanent disabilities as a result of this novel treatment, 1 in 180. Dr. Charles Hoff has not been silent about his concern for these people who received this experimental vaccine in the belief that it was safe. He has written to those responsible, both at Interior Health and to Dr. Bonnie Henry, to voice his concerns. The vaccine injury reporting forms submitted appear to have been lost by those involved in the vaccine rollout. Consequently, Interior Health has denied any significant vaccine injuries. These forms are now being resubmitted and sent by registered mail in another attempt to get the authorities to take this matter seriously. The authorities have sought to silence and discipline Dr. Hoff for informing the public about this very high rate of vaccine injury. He is accused of the crime of causing vaccine hesitancy. Dr. Hoff received notification from the Interior Health Authority on 29 April 2021 that he would no longer be allowed to work in the St. Bartholomew's emergency room in Lytton because of his refusal to remain silent regarding the vaccine injuries to the people of Lytton and the vaccine hesitancy that he has therefore caused. Despite a sporadic series of COVID infections in the community during the course of this pandemic, no one in Lytton has required any medical care at St. Bartholomew's for COVID infections. By contrast, much medical care has been given for vaccine injuries. Dr. Hoff is usually on duty as the emergency room physician in Lytton for 2 weeks out of every month, so his suspension by the Interior Health Authority pardon me, is likely to mean that the emergency room in Lytton will be closed for at least 2 weeks out of every month. Dr. Glyn Jones has tendered his resignation from working in Lytton. This will leave a significant gap in physician staffing at St. Bartholomew's, since there will only be one remaining physician to staff the ER. Locum physicians are very hard to find, but every effort will be made. These problems are further exacerbated by the fact that Interior Health Authority has also decided to reduce laboratory services in Lytton to 2 days per week. Apart from the negative impact on the quality of healthcare in Lytton, this will make recruitment of any new physicians extremely difficult. The Lytton Medical Clinic will attempt to continue to work as normal. Sadly, the recent decisions by the Interior Health Authority have made the delivery of healthcare in Lytton very precarious, substantially reduced, and essentially unsustainable. What the fuck? Okay, like, gotta work backwards here. This is odd. Like, the letter is odd. The format is odd. There's no letterhead. But would a small town health center for 250 to 2,000 people be concerned about having its own stationery? I don't know, right? There's some spelling and grammatical errors, and, got a lot of educated friends who don't know how to fucking spell and don't know how to punctuate properly. But this is far from, a Facebook post with no punctuation at all. So I don't know if I can trust this. Also, I don't have any other thing than this. Here's some question. If someone just wrote this out their ass, which seems like a possibility considering the format and the spelling and grammar, why would they maybe invent a Dr. Hoff? Right? Why wouldn't they just talk about all the supposed side effects? Why would they go so far as to have Dr. Hoff suspended? Also, then go on to mention some other possibly made-up doctor and their resignation? But also talk about, very specifically, the ER requiring a doctor for 2 weeks out of every month, so it might be closed, and then also include the health authority reducing their laboratory time. Mentioning how hard it is to recruit a doctor to work in a small town of 250 to 2,000 people. That there's just, the lack of letterhead and the spelling and grammar make it seem like a troll, but then the information inserted that isn't directly about vaccines and side effects makes it a master troll? If that's the case, does someone have that incredible foresight to trick someone like me into asking those questions? I don't know. I honestly don't think we'll ever know. But it's dated the 4th of May, and I know that I've had it since at least beginning of June, possibly end of May, so it existed long before Lytton burned to the ground. And now, other questions. Is St. Bartholomew's still there? Is Dr. Charles Hoff still around? Right? I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. But, we do know that throughout Canada's history, our government has covered up the death of, so far, looks like 900, which is the ones we found, but perhaps thousands more Native children left in unmarked graves. Clearly, atrocities, covering up tyranny and other atrocities. Is it possible that the sample size was so good, the information was so crisp, that a corrupt government might commit an atrocity to cover up the tyranny, to cover up the atrocity? But I've got a lot of questions. A lot of questions. And this is seriously fucked up. Like, for someone who's not a conspiracy theorist, this is exactly the kind of coincidence that can make them one. But hey, people with more time and balls and brains than I, go investigate, because I just can't anymore. I'm not one of the 2.2 million unemployed people in this country just sucking off the government teat and the taxpayer teat. But if you are, and you don't like this, you go ahead and fucking do it. Seriously. Because this is very fucking weird. All of it is so macabre. That's the word that comes to mind. I probably mispronounced it, but I don't care. I'm starting to feel like Alex Jones. And Alex Jones was right about the globalists putting chemicals in the water that turned the frickin' frogs gay. That shit's true. That's real. Jesus.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, scum. They're on giant death factories, keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird sick stuff, man.
Relevant links to shit I said in the description. Maybe. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's a free country. At least it used to be.